Let me welcome all to World University Summit on Universities of Future, a global partnership for social justice and sustainable development, organized by International Institute of Higher Education Research and Capacity Building, IIHED, of Jindal Global University. This is the session number 8, entitled Environmental Sustainability, a Core Commitment of the University Beyond Rankings. Let me introduce my panelists and myself first, and then we can talk about the concept and go for a little discussion on the concept by our panelist. So let me introduce the first panelist, Professor Dr. ABHIJIT BANERJEE. Professor Dr. ABHIJIT BANERJEE is Professor of Environmental Studies at the Jindal School of Liberal Arts and Humanities. He has more than 10 years of teaching and research experience in the United States that have included several peer-reviewed publications and presentations at international conferences. In the US, he was actively involved in the Association for Advancement of Sustainability in Higher Education and played a leading role in various campus sustainability initiatives. After returning to India, ABHIJIT has worked in the environmental policy implementation with the German Agency for International Cooperation, GIZ, and the United Nations on issues related to climate change, resource efficiency, and circular economy. His expertise on the resource efficiency and circular economy has led to consulting opportunity with NITI Aayog, Government of India's policy body, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, and Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. ABHIJIT's area of interest and specialization include environmental and energy policy, resource efficiency, circular economy, environmental politics, and global environmental governance. Now let me introduce our second panelist, Professor Dr. ROSLEE RAJIKAN. Professor Dr. ROSLEE RAJIKAN is currently a professor in clinical nutrition and dietetics at the Center for Healthy Aging and Wellness, Faculty of Health Science, Universiti Kebangsaan, Malaysia. He specializes in clinical nutrition and dietetics, focusing on diet optimization modeling, nutrition for low-income residents, individuals with special need, and student development. He obtained a Bachelor of Science in Dietetics Honours degree from UKM, MSc in Human Nutrition and Metabolism from the University of Aberdeen, Scotland, UK, and PhD in Nutrition and Plant Science from the University of Glasgow, Scotland, United Kingdom. He is currently serving as the UKM Pro Vice-Chancellor for Strategy and Corporate Development. Previously, he had held many administrative positions in UKM, including the Director of Student Affairs Centre, Head of Dietetics Program, Faculty of Health Sciences, Deputy Vice-Chancellor for Student Affairs and Alumni, and Director of Development Centre, Student and Alumni Relations. Now I wish to welcome the third panelist in this panel, Professor Dr. JENNIE Shaw. Professor Dr. JENNIE Shaw is Deputy Vice-Chancellor and Vice President Academic at the University of Adelaide, Australia, where she oversees all undergraduate and postgraduate coursework, student matters, from enrollment to graduation, as well as teaching curriculum quality and excellence. Previous roles include that of Executive Dean, Faculty of Arts, University of Adelaide, Pro Vice-Chancellor and Dean of the Faculty of Arts and Science at the University of New England, Inaugural Director of Arts New England, UNE Centre for Research and Innovation in the Arts, and Associate Dean and Head of School at the Sydney Conservatorium of Music, University of Sydney. JENNIE has undergraduate qualification in music, BA First Class Honours and University Medal, and in law, LLB First Class Honours from University of Sydney, Australia, and postgraduate award, MA and PhD from Stony Brook University, USA. She sits on a number of advisory and governing boards in Australia and is responsible for the sustainability education pillar under University of Adelaide's Here for Good Sustainability policy. Now let me introduce myself. I'll be moderating this session. I am Professor Dr. ABHIROOP CHOWDHURY. I am Professor and Executive Dean at Jindal Global School of Environment and Sustainability. I have completed my graduation in Botany Honours and MSc in Environmental System Management from University of Calcutta. I earned my PhD degree from Indian Institute of Technology, Indian School of Mines with Government of India Fellowship on the research question, how development and climate change is impacting mangrove ecology at Indian Sundarbans. My postdoctoral research was on Kutch mangrove ecology at Gujarat. I have published around 37 Scoopers indexed journal articles around 2016 to 23 with over 1,000 citations. I am currently engaged in the capacity of editorial board member in journals such as BMC Public Health, Frontiers in Soil Science, and Toxin Reviews. I work extensively in green livelihood generation schemes at Indian Sundarban, and also work in understanding how development impact mangrove ecology and blue carbon sequestration at Kutch and Sundarbans. Now, let me take some time and introduce the concept of this particular session. This is session number 8 and entitled Environmental Sustainability, a Core Commitment of the University Beyond Ranking. Universities are the pivotal institutions for the dissemination of knowledge through teaching and for generation of new knowledge through research. University functions as a microcosm of society and can therefore help predict which sustainable innovation might work at a larger level. Overall, universities play an essential role in sustainable development through their pioneering of new practices, their work which impacts society, and their education of future generation, giving them a special ability to create and influence change. The sustainability indicator has gained so much momentum that ranking systems such as QS and Times ranking are gearing towards measuring a university's ability to tackle the world's greatest environmental, social, and governance challenges, and therefore reinforce their commitment to our sustainable development goals. In this panel, we will deliberate upon the need to think about environmental sustainability as a core commitment of universities in the 21st century beyond concern about rankings. With this, let me hand the floor over to my panelists to talk a little about this concept, and then we can go to the question and answer session. First, I would like to invite Professor ABHIJIT Banerjee to speak some words about this concept.
Thank you, ABHIROOP, and welcome to all the other panelists. ABHIROOP is my colleague. The other panelists are joining from other countries, so special welcome to all of them and the audience. And thank you to the organizers who have organized this summit. So ABHIROOP has nicely outlined the mission and purpose of this session. So in my introductory remarks, I'll just maybe reflect on my own experience a little bit. I mean, we are all coming at sustainability, all the panelists from different angles and different experiences. So I'll just take a couple of minutes to reflect from my own experiences. We do see that the younger generation is not only more aware, but also more concerned. Even if they don't understand the full extent of, particularly with climate change, they see it everywhere in the news and the media, so they are more engaged. So what I've been trying to convey to them is that and students really engage with this direction that if we let catastrophic climate change happen, as we all know, climate is changing, we can't stop it, but we need to avoid catastrophic climate change, which is the goal of the United Nations Treaty. But if we let catastrophic climate change happen, those of us in the privileged sectors, we may not immediately feel anything drastic. But gradually, particularly for the younger generation, in a few decades from now, we will not be insulated any longer. Even if we today think of ourselves as belonging to the privileged sector, whether in rich countries or developing countries. So what does that mean? How will it affect us? It's not that big natural disasters will wipe us out, or that is only going to happen to a small fraction of people. What I really stress is collapse of socio-economic and political order. So this is going to, if we have large-scale food shortages, food riots, refugee problems, and economic collapse brought on by climate disasters, when you put everything together, no country will remain insulated. So even those of us who belong to supposedly privileged sector will find our future lives and careers severely disrupted. It's almost like a civil war has broken out in your country. So this is what students really, initially they're very shocked when I talk about this, but then they really start to think through. Some people have the idea that climate change impacts are a distant phenomenon. It's happening somewhere else in the Sundarbans, in the semi-arid regions, water shortage. It's happening to someone else, the refugees from Bangladesh and so on. But everyone will be affected, particularly the younger generation. So that is my starting point, and we see that students really start taking it seriously. That the whole purpose of a university education, we often think of purpose of university education is to only build a career, proper successful career. But as we are discussing today, that the mission of the university is far wider. It has a responsibility to our society. It has a responsibility for building the newer generation. So I stress to the new generation students that what good is the use of a successful academic career followed by a successful professional career if there is no economy to the economy has collapsed by the time you are a few decades from now. So you have fantastic degrees and professional accomplishments, but what good will it do to you? So this is what is recognized by the youth climate protesters. We have seen Greta Thunberg at the United Nations and so on. So they're boycotting school and college because we have no future. What is the purpose of education? So so this is the theme I constantly try to engage students. The environmental studies students who have chosen to study environmental studies, whether in our School of Liberal Arts, whether in ABHIROOP School of Environment, they kind of already know this. But since we have made environmental studies a compulsory part of the curriculum for all incoming students, the other students may not necessarily make this connection that their professional lives are going to be affected seriously unless we can turn this around. So this is the point I wanted to make based on my own experience. I have other comments on our sustainability initiatives, so I'll leave it for later, the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor ABHIJIT Banerjee. It's a wonderful insight on what's going to happen. And it's true, if the climate change is going to hit, it is going to hit every section of the society. Though we may not be able to understand it now, we think that only a section of the society will get impacted, those living near the coastal region or disaster-prone areas. But I rightly been said, I mean, everybody, even to a certain extent, the education in the university may also suffer because of this impending crisis and very obscure crisis. Nobody knows what is going to happen. With this note, let me transition into and ask our second panelist, Professor Dr. JENNIE Shaw, to shed some light into this topic.
Thank you, Dr. Chowdhury, and thank you too to Jindal Global University for inviting me to speak today. I should say from the outset that our move to support sustainable education, sustainable research and sustainability practices at the University of Adelaide was in fact not motivated by university rankings, but in fact we had deliberately looked at improving our sustainability practices about 6 years ago before COVID, with a view to rising in the ranking schemes. But at that time, the university executive group elected not to go down that path because of the cost and effort involved. But as we all know, times change, views change, and it became very clear to us during the pandemic years that doing our part to meet the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals was something our students, our future students and our staff felt very strongly about. And in fact, they were indeed very passionate about this. So we formed a steering committee, and that was led by a small group of keen academic and professional staff, and that was to look at what we could do. This involved extensive consultation with our university community and with the wider community and with our industry stakeholders. And this led to our university-wide Sustainability Strategy 2030, entitled Here for Good, which we began to implement just last year. So the scope of the strategy I would describe as all-encompassing. Its aim is through our education and our research to build sustainable pathways to address complex challenges associated with climate change. And, it is a very complex area, but they include things like food and water security, forced migration due to natural disaster, impacts on biodiversity and on health and on housing. So the strategy outlines our commitment to a sustainable future and our ambition to lead and to deliver sustainable change across our research, our teaching, our community outreach, and all of our campuses. So the strategy itself is ambitious, it's extensive, and it's multi-year. I can talk more about it later, but I'm just going to give you some of the highlights. So we've set ourselves a target to accelerate decarbonisation efforts within our campus footprint by achieving by 2025 net zero emissions from directly controlled operations and carbon neutrality, and that's according to the Australian Government's Climate Active Carbon Neutral Standard, by 2030. We're actually on track to do both of those, thanks to concerted efforts over the last decade to cut the energy intensity of our campuses by 18% and to derive renewable energy from a solar farm that we've built on one of our campuses. We're involved in researching green hydrogen and other energy alternatives so that we can accelerate sustainable transitions, and we're investing in research that has measurable sustainability impact. But of course, sustainability encompasses much more than achieving net zero emissions, as good as that will be. Along with the creation and dissemination of new knowledge through our research, and we are a research-intensive university, our core mission is also to educate this generation and future generations. So we've made a commitment to embed sustainability education in all of our programs. So that's become more complex, and this is unique to us, but we are merging with another university right now in South Australia. And that's more complex, especially as that university's thinking and practices around sustainability appear to be not as developed as ours. On the other hand, as we're now developing a brand new curriculum for the new Adelaide University, we have the perfect opportunity to embed sustainability at the core of everything that we do when the new university doors open in 2026. So that's quite unique in the sector. So our aim is that by 2028, every graduate will be sustainability literate and therefore able to influence sustainable change in their chosen professions, whatever they are. So in the meantime, we're involving our current students in sustainability challenges and in sustainability internships to get students involved in solutions to real-world sustainability problems. And student projects last year involved imaginative solutions to a range of things, and I was recalling them something tonight as I was thinking about this. One was to reduce pollution from road transport, and there were a number of them around recycling and reusing a wide range of products. But we realised we cannot achieve our goals alone. So energy and sustainability have been a key focus of the Australia-India bilateral partnership. And so it made sense when we recently announced a collaboration with the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, that will see expertise in the fields of sustainability and energy shared between the two of us. So we see this as the first of many exciting collaborations to try and solve these very, very difficult problems. I think I'll leave it there and I'll join in the conversation a bit later.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Jeannie Shaw. It is give a very good idea about how we should go about sustainable development education and how it can be linked into the educational practices. As you rightly mentioned, if the student is learning about sustainable programs and sustainability issues from the core of their curriculum from the start, that itself give a very good jump start into what kind of impact they are going to bring in the society and bring that change that is required in order to achieve a sustainable development goals. With this note, let me request our panelist, Professor Dr. ROSLEE RAJIKAN, to shed some light into this issue. Yes.
Thank you, Professor Chowdhury, esteemed panelists and audience and everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the organizer for giving me this platform to share a bit on our experience and also our views on environmental sustainability. In this era of global environmental crisis, which include global warming, pollution, and also disaster, University, as mentioned by the other two panelists, have a unique position to influence others. So we need to be the leaders, or we need to lead by example, because we are the centers of knowledge creation and we can make a lot of changes. And we are also training for future leaders. Thus, we have a crucial responsibility to embrace environmental sustainability as a core commitment beyond rankings. So ranking comes as a secondary output, following all of our hard works and activities and also strategies, which is based mainly on our core values, on the university core values, mission, and also vision. So I do agree that we need to have a stand on our own, but we need to in a way be able to show our commitment that to sustainability, which should benefit our planet and also society. And as mentioned by Prof. Jenny Shaw and Prof. ABHIJIT, the commitment can come in many ways. For example, we need to invest in renewable energy and energy efficiency. Prof. Jenny mentioned about new renewable energy, solar, and etc. And in our university also, we have done that as well. And we need to also to upgrade infrastructure and build buildings for energy efficiency to further reduce environmental footprint. We also need to integrate sustainability into academic curriculum to equip future generation with the knowledge and skills to address environmental challenges, not just people from the environmental causes, but also across all disciplines. Everyone needs to be aware and need to understand what they need to do to, in a way, maintain the environmental sustainability. And the research also should focus on renewable energy development, sustainable agriculture, and also climate change mitigation, which empowers a solution. We also need to make the university as a living lab on its own, where we need to promote sustainable practices on campus. For example, reducing waste generation and encouraging recycling programs to promote sustainable transportation option and eco-friendly landscaping as well. And as Prof. Jenny mentioned, we cannot do it on our own. We need to collaborate with the local communities, industry people, and also the government to come out with bigger or more strategies to improve the sustainable environment in our local situation or in our country. And environmental sustainability must also be ingrained in the university core values, which guide every decision and also actions. And this commitment requires dedication, not from the bottom, but also the higher half of the management of the universities need to show their commitment and also engagement with the entire community, and also a genuine desire to have a positive mark on the planet. And in conclusion, while we in a way look into ranking as one part of a way of us benchmarking our situation, but the prioritization of environmental sustainability transcends mere numerical validation. So by making this commitment a core value, university can empower future generation, foster innovative solutions, and become true leaders in building a more sustainable future. And this is not just an obligation, but also an opportunity to have a long-lasting legacy of positive change for the future. So that's from me for the start. I pass over to you, Prof. Andre.
Thank you, Professor ROSLEE. It's really a very interesting idea that we got, that how we can channel the sustainability, education, and research, and how we can take it to our most important partner, that are the students, how students can help us to achieve that. With that, one question that comes to my mind, and I think it is also a very common question in the field of sustainability, and I would like to ask the panel about that. It is, what measure can be adopted to produce socially responsible research for sustainability and climate change? with the view that research as of now is still traditional. It works on either on grounds of getting some output out of the research, but how that can be honed into the level of sustainability and addressing the issues of sustainability and climate change. Please, I would like to start with Professor ABHIJIT, maybe.
Thank you for the question. I'll keep it short. Again, I'll just say a few words from my own experience. The first is that, as we all recognize, sustainability is multidisciplinary. So the first thing is research collaboration across disciplines. So in our university, we have the School of Liberal Arts where I'm based. We have School of Environment, the newer School of Environment where Professor ABHIROOP is based. Then we have experts who are working on, let's say, the legal aspects of climate change in the School of Law. We have business sustainability experts in the School of Business. We have an expert on international refugees in the School of International Relations. We have someone in green architecture in the School of Architecture. So this is something that needs to be promoted more. And our students, say one student from our school can do an internship or a summer research program with a professor from another school. Already we have a very nice system where students can take electives. Any student from any school can take electives from other schools. So someone from my school is interested in a law course on sustainability and climate change. So they can take a course in the law school and so on. We also have some interdisciplinary research centers. Where I'm part of one center, ABHIROOP is also part of a center, where while it is geared to initially towards students from our own school, but we have no hesitation in accepting students from other schools. So if there is a center for, let's say, climate research, it could potentially bring faculty and students from 5 different schools, and which makes it more interesting for everyone. We could organize guest speakers and seminars together, building on our own respective networks. The last point I would like to make is that some of our faculty, including myself, we have worked outside academia for a while, and we do have a big network in think tanks, let's say, research think tanks. So research collaborations with these think tanks offers very unique and real-world research projects. So we already place our students in internships with these think tanks, and I'm happy to note that some of them have, after graduation, they have been placed in research assistant positions in some of these places. So just a couple of thoughts from me.
Very interesting to note how sustainability research can be implemented at a university level, and how students can actually benefit from that and try to be a solution giver rather than a pollution or a problem identifier. So that's something we always used to talk a lot at JGU, Jindal Global University, that we have to give solution to this problem. With this, I would like to ask some comments from Professor Dr. Jennie Shaw.
Thank you. Look, I loved Professor ROSLEE's comment about the living labs. I think if we're talking about areas of research, many of these future solutions will be in these transdisciplinary areas. And also, I think we have to look at how we support our research. So just to give you an example, we're on track to divest, in fact, by the end of this year, from direct ownership of any funds that include public equities or corporate bonds in companies whose primary business is the ownership and exploitation of fossil fuel reserves. So that means we'll also be looking more carefully at the bodies that fund our research, and more we will seek to collaborate with like-minded partners. So we're also requiring our researchers and research partners, industry partners, to procure services sustainably and to report their research findings transparently, reporting against sustainability measures. So there's the how as well as the who.
This is really interesting, particularly how to measure and how to control the research. Because I agree with Professor JENNIE on this point that research not always means that it is going to be very clean and environmentally friendly. So who is giving us the money for the research? It is a very interesting point that Professor JENNIE has put forward. With this, I will like to ask the comment of Professor ROSLEE on this particular issue, that how sustainability and research can go hand in hand. Yes.
Yeah, I totally agree with Prof. JENNIE and also Prof. ABHIJIT that transdisciplinary research is very important, and it can give more views and also more solution towards certain problems. So, and it should relate with real issue and real problems. And the research team should also seek opinion and also views from communities that are directly affected by certain environmental issues and also unsustainable practice. And this will, in a way, be done by engaging and collaborating with community organization, indigenous population, and also industry and government, of course, because we don't want programs that have been, in a way, designed by the government, in a way, can be run smoothly, and then we can, in a way, utilize the fund that we have to give more impact to the project that have been planned. Other thing that we need to consider is also we need to maintain a high ethical standard when we conduct research to ensure informed consent and also data privacy. And this aspect can ensure that all our targeted clients or committees are protected against any other issues. And when we are doing research, we should also need to ensure that our we minimize the environmental footprint. For example, we choose methods that is low carbon research strategies, and we can also, as Prof. JENNIE said, ensure that the fund that we obtain is something that is of value to the communities as well. Yeah, that's from me.
Thank you, Professor ROSLEE, Professor JENNIE, and Professor ABHIJIT on shedding light on this very important issue of the connection between research and sustainability. But with that, we are now into a more important point, that how this sustainability can be incorporated by us as we all are engaged in universities, and make it available and understandable to our students. So I would like to ask a question, that how can universities integrate sustainable development into their curricula and teaching to prepare students to become leaders in sustainability initiatives? So I would love to hear your comments on this very important note, that how we can integrate the sustainability core values into our curriculum. With this, I would like to start with Professor ROSLEE about his point and comments on because he has already worked in several of the chairs in many of the universities. So how you think that this can be done, please.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Cherry. I think one of the ways that we can, in a way, integrate sustainability across the curriculum is by using the transdisciplinary approach, where we should move beyond dedicated sustainability courses and integrate sustainable developmental concept into all across discipline. For example, we can, in a way, include sustainable concept in business or management courses, where students can learn about green marketing, and history student can also learn or analyze environmental movement. We should also utilize problem-based learning, where people or students can discuss and look into real world sustainability challenges through project-based learning, service learning, and simulation. And this can develop critical thinking, collaboration, and practical skill needed for the students to implement solution. And also we can utilize case study and local focus so that the student can have that real experience with the local sustainable initiative, which can in a way encourage them to work with their own community later on.
Thank you. With this, I would like to ask the same question to Professor Jenny to shed some light. It is evident that University of Adelaide is working wonderfully in implementing sustainability, but how sustainability can be brought into the core curriculum and how we can make the student the future leaders in sustainability solutions. Please, Professor Jenny.
Thank you, Professor ABHIROOP. And look, we know that add-ons have limited impact, so integration of that sustainability knowledge and practice in our teaching really is critical. So as Professor ABHIJIT mentioned earlier, in some of our programs, like the environmental sciences, and in fact, most of our social sciences, sustainability is already very well embedded. We really have to work on the rest. And as I said, we have this opportunity because we're creating a new university, so the whole curriculum is new, so it can be built in from the start. But while we're doing that, we're investing in more of those one-off opportunities, our e-challenges, our internships, and they allow interested students to opt in. Our challenge is we find that most of our students want to opt in. So we have more students wanting to do these placements and internships and e-challenges than we can really manage. And that just indicates to me that, again, caring for our planet and our peoples is clearly important to many of our students. So I think we just need to recognise that and really try and accommodate that in our curricula as we revise, as all universities do.
Thank you, Professor Jenny. It's really is important to identify the interest the student have in sustainability and nurture it into the right direction. With this, I would like to take this question to Professor ABHIJIT BANERJEE, that how the sustainability can be embedded into the curriculum and how we can make the students the change makers.
Yeah, thank you. As I mentioned in the beginning, that in our School of Liberal Arts, environmental studies is compulsory for all incoming freshman students. It's somewhat modeled in the American liberal arts concept. So even if students later choose to do something else, they will have a background, at least in the basic background in environmental studies, regardless of what they choose to pursue. And as we also noted that our electives are open to all students. So any student from other schools, based on their interest, they can take electives in any other schools. And the courses are scheduled in such a way that these electives in the evening don't conflict with anything else, any of their core courses. So this is a unique aspect of our school. The other point I would like to make, which I mean, the other speakers made fantastic points. I would just add a couple of additional points. Field trips, for example. Most of us use extensively field trips. ABHIROOP's department, they have a fantastic field trip to Biodiversity Park, which was completely restored from scratch by faculty from a different university. So it's a great living lab, so to speak. I take students to waste management sites. As you know that in India, waste management situation is pretty bad. And informal workers, they scrounge through the waste and make a living under horrible conditions. And our students come from mostly privileged backgrounds. And by going to the site, for the first time, they actually see that what is really going on with what we throw away and how these people live, they make a living out of it. So that kind of eye-opening experience, even if it disturbs them a little bit, makes a big impression on them. You know, you could teach in class that, okay, through graphs that, okay, we only recycle 20% of our waste and 80% ends up in the landfill, while another country recycles 80% of their waste. That is an important thing to learn, but to actually see it in practice, really, I've seen in my own experience, makes a big impression on the student. I'll stop here for now.
Thank you, Professor Abhijit. It's a really interesting point that how field trips can be used to make a student aware about sustainability challenges, and also to open their eyes up to the real life problem rather than understanding the data and charts and graphs. It is always better to take them to the directly to the problem and show them the problem itself. That will definitely going to inculcate the interest in them to try to find out a solution. I remember just one of our one of our graduate students has, I think, also have taken the course of Professor Abhijit, who is now started a startup on trying to manage the waste problem in their own city of Jaipur, and it is in Rajasthan. So yes, field trips and this kind of engagement does work wonders in making the student understand about the real life scenarios and problem. With that, we go down to the third question that I would like to pose to the panel. That is, what role can universities play in the domain of environmental sustainability as we face crises such as global warming, biodiversity loss, and toxic pollution of ecological systems? I would like to ask.
Abhiroop, if I may,
Yes.
if I may, this, I was looking at the list of questions, and kind of this question is kind of a bigger role, which I think in our opening remarks, most of it has been addressed. So unless anyone wants to add something, because we have a couple of more questions left, and we only have a few minutes left. So do you agree that this has been...
Yes, let's take it fast then. If anybody has any point to add on this particular point, we can take it. Any panelist?
Well, I might, if I may,
Yes,
because
please.
I really do think actually it's an important question, because we've really got to lead by example. So we have a duty to educate and produce graduates who are sustainably literate. We have a duty to produce new knowledge and new research that'll have an impact. And it's not something that we can afford to put off and leave to the next generation. So I think it's also important. Universities can't do everything. So we have to choose where to invest. And we've chosen to support research into arid land farming, sustainable agriculture, like Professor ROSLEE, food security, green hydrogen, affordable housing. But also we can choose what community outreach we do. And one example I'd give is we have a really well-run community dental program where we provide dental services for the homeless throughout Adelaide. And I just think, some quick comments there, but I do think it's that leadership role that universities have to take.
Very interesting point at hand, and also that is something the core concept of this panel, that how universities can play a role in addressing these issues. Anyone in the panel want to add any points to this?
Just to add a bit,
Yes.
university can also dedicate the research capacities to understand the complexities of environmental issues. So studies on renewable energy, sustainable resource management, and pollution, which is conducted on campus, can pave the way for innovative solutions for bigger issues on the real world outside campus. And sharing experience and also networking with other universities, not only local or national university, but also globally, can also perhaps leads to the way for finding solution to certain issues as well.
Wonderfully articulated. Yes, really, we have to find solutions, and university would be the best model to make it possible.
Actually, the other two speakers' comments actually reminded me of a couple of comments of my own, like community outreach, even outreach to schools, like high schools, because most people may not end up in universities. So, but almost everyone has a school education. So, outreach to I have done a few of them myself. I mean, part of it is to attract students, but also to showcase our efforts at sustainability and so on. So outreach to high schools makes you reach out to a much wider audience, number one. And the second point is the role of a public intellectual in reaching out to mainstream media, which reaches out to a wide audience. I know Professor ABHIROOP is a prolific publisher of media articles, and we have many other examples. So that potentially reaches a wide audience. So these are two other examples.
Thank you, Professor Abhijit. It's a very interesting point. So with that, we come down to the role of university. I have a very interesting question at hand. That is, what are the sustainable development practices that you adopt at your own campus, which help in maintaining environmental sustainability? So I think we can start this question with Professor Jenny.
Sure. I mentioned the solar farm before, so I won't go into that. But I know that Professor ROSLEE mentioned Indigenous peoples. We live in the land of the Australian Aborigines, and locally it's the Indigenous Kaurna people in Adelaide. And we actually consulted them when we were developing our sustainability policy, because they've lived in this country caring for the land for 40 to 60,000 years, and they've done a pretty good job. So we actually consulted the Indigenous community about what strategies they have done to live in harmony with the land and use its resources for shelter, food and medicine, for many thousands of years. So I think mention that one point.
Thank you, Professor Jenny. Professor ROSLEE, any comments on this?
In UKM, we have done several initiatives that contribute to UKM environmental sustainability. For example, we invest in green infrastructure, including energy efficient building. We start up our solar panels and also rainwater harvesting systems. And we also have improved our waste management to increase recycling program. Other than that, we introduce various courses related to sustainability, and that courses can be taken by everyone on campus, not only the students, but also the community as well, through short courses, training and other stuff. And also in terms of sustainable practices, we adopted the green procurement, which is set by the government to ensure that when vendors coming into UKM, they follow the green procurement. And then we also have recently we introduced a sustainable award for people who have shown some innovation relating to environmental sustainable project and other stuff. So that's one way where we try to encourage people to be or to come out with solution or innovation to certain environmental issue or problems. That's
Thank
from
you,
you.
Professor ROSLEE. After this, I would love to hear Professor Abhijit Banerjee.
I would just make a couple of points based on my long experience in the US. Maybe as a contrast to what I faced there versus what I'm seeing here. Any sustainability initiatives at the university level depends heavily on what is going on around you in that city or region. So the big difference I see in the US, and I would assume it's somewhat similar in Australia and Europe as well, that many systems are already in place. So it is much easier to adopt them for your campus. Let's say, to use the example of waste management. So the segregation and recycling system, let's say the city of Chicago, where I used to teach, is already in place. So it is a relatively small step for us to collect our waste separately and channel it to the city's collection mechanism. In contrast, if we try to do that in India, as we know, India is at the very beginning of its efforts to really towards scientific waste management. So we cannot really hope to start something from scratch if the system is not in place. So there are things which we struggle with at Jindal University, but there are other things which we can do a much better job. For example, in India, as you know, there's been a big solar boom. India is among developing countries. India is one of the world leaders in solar. So on something like that, both in terms of installing solar on our own campus, as well as if you buy from the grid, the share of solar is increasing rapidly. So that is something we can do much easily than, let's say, a very sustainable waste management system. Then electric vehicles. India, that is also something developing quite rapidly in India. So we in our campus we have small electric carts for transportation. All the vehicles coming from outside are parked outside, and inside the campus is only these electric vehicles. So there are some things which are much easier to do given the context you are in versus others. The last point here is that Indian universities, I would say, are at a much more starting point in adopting campus-wide sustainability initiatives, and it's a little bit uneven from university to university, but it is increasingly becoming the norm. Universities are increasingly publishing for the first time sustainability reports, which is unheard of in the Indian context. I mean, if you go to American universities, which I'm familiar with, they have been doing this for 20 years. So we are seeing this for the first time in India, which is a great sign for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Abhijit. And just that reminds me, Professor Abhijit, that Jindal Global University actually has produced a sustainability report just a few years back, and we do try to audit our sustainability of any practices that in academic campus we have. And I think rightly been said by all the panelists, these practices itself is a kind of a beacon that a student can see and learn. So not only they are learning sustainability in their curriculum, but they're also seeing that in their campus where they're learning this or getting their teaching and learning done. So this does impact their thinking pattern, and I believe that they would eventually transition into a sustainability leader in this process. With that, let me just take one question from the audience, then I'm again going to come back to the set question, because I find this question really interesting. So, and very much set with this particular theme. So one of our audience has asked a very interesting question, that with the increasing focus on ranking system incorporating sustainability matrices, do you believe this creates a genuine commitment to sustainability, or can it lead to greenwashing? I will ask any of the panelists or all three to answer this question, please. Yeah.
I'll have a go.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know about brainwashing. I think, as I said, I think if you embark on sustainability in order to improve in the rankings, that's the wrong motivation. I think it really should be something that is within your means. As Professor ABHIJIT said, it's some universities are better placed to do a whole lot of measures. We were very lucky that it was led from the top by our Vice-Chancellor. So you have to have that university-wide buy-in. If you approach it from the point of view, and I sit on our reputations and rankings committee, if we'd said we will become the top 50 sustainable universities by doing X, I don't think we would have got the buy-in from our peers or our students. I think it has to be genuine, and I don't know about brainwashing, but certainly in Australia, greenwashing is an issue. Students can tell if you're not genuine about it.
Yeah, if I may quickly add on the topic of greenwashing, this is always a problem. You know, it's good that the audience member has raised this point. Whether it's university reporting, whether it's corporate reporting, greenwashing is everywhere. So you cannot escape it. So it's important to tackle this challenge head on, knowing that you will be scrutinized. So one way, so there are several ways to address this. These reporting requirements, there are some standardized reporting requirements. If you, whether for corporate reporting, for universities, not so much in India, in other countries, I'm familiar with the US example. If you follow standardized reporting models, then you have much less leeway to fudge the numbers, so to speak. And finally, if your reports are audited by an independent third party, that gives it more credibility. So yes, I totally agree that greenwashing is a major problem everywhere, but you can make some headway if you are serious about it.
As I said earlier, ranking is just the secondary or tertiary output from all the work and effort that we have done. So we are not totally solely focused on the ranking alone. But as for UKM, all our sustainability effort has already been in place in our university strategic plan, which goes beyond the ranking. So it's something that we, as I would say, would like to lead by example and shows our students, which are also the future leaders in the future, in a way to embrace that culture of maintaining the environmental sustainability.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a very interesting discourse that we got. We have the last question, but I think that is already been answered by over the period of time in the discussion. That is, what are challenges that you face in your university to implement practices that will help maintain environmental sustainability? Any strategies to address this challenge? If very shortly, if someone want to shed light on this question.
I'll have a go again just very quickly, just to say the challenges are many. I'll just say we're celebrating our 150th birthday at my university, which means we have buildings that are 150 years old. It's very hard to retrofit and make them energy efficient, just one example. But I think the strategies are to set targets and to set goals and make them realistic. When we actually developed our strategy, some of our targets were too soon and too ambitious, and we pushed them out a few years because we wanted to make them realistic so people wouldn't give up. So I think just making people accountable in all of their areas, whether it's an increase in research projects around sustainability or an increase in the number of courses that embed sustainability, all of those things can be measured, and that's a good place to start.
Yes, I totally agree with Prof. Jenny, because implementing sustainable practices often requires upfront investment in renewable energy, waste management system, and also green infrastructure. So what we did in UKM is to prioritize and do it in phases. So we cannot do everything at one time. And another point is that I agree with Prof. ABHIJIT earlier, where the cultural and behavioral change is also very important. So it can be challenging, especially when we want to sustain the practices. So what we normally do is to have a continuous awareness campaign, education program, and also some incentivization scheme for the people who are embarking on this journey to change their behavior towards a more green or sustainable behavior.
Thank you.
Just quickly, if I may add
Yes.
the last point on this note, I already mentioned the challenges in my previous point about the context of where your university is. So in India versus, let's say, the US or Europe, certain things are more economically, commercially viable than others. So typically, university administrations would, they're careful about spending money. So let's say a sustainability project X has a better payback. Let's say energy efficiency projects have a better payback, so they're more likely to get approved than something else, an electric bus, which may not immediately have a good payback right now. So this is always a challenge. So seeking different types of funding opportunities. In the US, standard practice was a special student sustainability fee. A very small amount per semester, but nonetheless, it adds up to a substantial amount every semester. I don't know how feasible that will be in India, but one can think of different types of funding sources to tackle initiatives that may not be have such an attractive payback. On a related context, Professor ROSLEE mentioned green procurement, very, very important point, not so well developed in India, at least for many goods. Only for a small segment like appliances. But let's say for goods which don't really have a proper green procurement chain, a supply chain well developed, we could think of a consortium of universities. Let's say all the universities in New Delhi. We have like dozens of universities in New Delhi. If we have joint procurement of, let's say, recycled paper, for example, that will bring down the cost, and we can all benefit from taking such an approach. Thank you.
Thank you. And this is a wonderful discussion. I mean, and it is a need of the day, because I think we all are passionately involved in the field of sustainability and development, and we are trying to imbibe this feeling to our students also. So with that idea in mind, this actually has brought a very interesting idea of how the problems and issues of sustainability can be tackled, how that can be built into the curriculum, how research networks can be developed, and how students can be made more motivated in this particular field. I want to thank all my panelists for their time and efforts and their wonderful observations that we're definitely going to help all and even universities across the world to get some idea how to we can address these issues. It's a never-ending process, but definitely is a good start. I thank all Professor Abhijit Banerjee, Professor Dr. JENNIE Shaw, and Professor Dr. ROSLEE RAJIKAN for their time and effort. And I definitely want to thank IIHED and Jindal Global University for giving this platform for this such an interesting and important discussion in the field of environment and sustainable development. Thank you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Bye.